morning, everyone. Welcome to Woolen Spinning. My name is Rachel. As always, it is our last podcast episode of the year. I can't believe we are here. We do have one more live stream next week, but we have the final sort of podcast episode this week. This is episode 281, if you can believe it. And I am coming to you from just outside of Vancouver, British Columbia in Canada. Thank you for the compliments on my necklace. We'll be talking about it later in the show. And yes, it jingles. We'll talk about it soon. I was actually a little bit worried before I hit start with everything and just stream and all that kind of stuff because OBS changed the way that the platform looks on my desktop, and I was like, oh no. And I had looked at it yesterday and I knew what to expect, and I had gone through a trial run, but you just never know, like when you actually hit that stream button, what's going to happen. So it's lovely to be here. I hope you guys are all doing very, very well. My battery in my mic is showing that it may or may not last through the whole episode, but I have a backup microphone. So if we lose sound and I am talking, just say something in the chat and I will just switch us over seamlessly to a new mic. And I hopefully fixed the camera issue. Things weren't plugged in properly last week. It looked like everything had last time. It looked like things had sort of come loose. So yeah, thank you for the compliments on my necklace. Dion says that necklace is absolutely adorable. Thank you. It is so great to welcome everybody. We've got a full chat today. We've got so welcome to Ellen and Dagmar and Diana and Rebecca and Sam, and who else is here? Eveline and Dorothy, Mary. Who else is here? Eve. Suzanne is here. Charlotte. I'm probably missing people. It is so. Alberto is here. It's great to see everybody. Thank you so much. You're wearing your Bells necklace. Yes, I am. Dion, Glenda, it's so great to see everybody. Welcome to Christine. It was really lovely to see everybody this morning in Spin Group as well. I wasn't sure I was going to be able to jump in, but I was able to on my drive home and stayed connected while I was just doing the last minute setup, which was lovely. Welcome to Nicole. So thank you everybody for being here. We've got a very, very full show today. I hope that you enjoy it. It's going to be a little bit longer than our regular shows, which is saying something because our shows are pretty long, but there's a lot to talk about, and I wanted to cover sort of as much as I could in this final episode of the year. Take our time, just enjoy our time together. Almost a bit of a holiday celebration together. I've got a lot to share with you. And first off, let's talk about some of this stuff that is coming up and is released. So the Year of Color finale, sort of year-end reflections, that vlog has been released. It is available for watching. I will throw the link in the live chat for those who are following along later. I would love to know from you guys what you have learned. How did the year go? How did you sort of feel now that we're at the other end of the Year of Color? What's that all been like for you? I would love to hear. Rebecca has been covering all things Corespinning on the Wool Circle. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So I'll come back to that. I'll just put a pin in that for a minute. And the Woolen Spinning Radio, you can catch that podcast that me and Rebecca record every month anywhere that you get your audio podcasts. So I happen to use Pocket Casts. Some people use Google Podcasts, although that's going away. iTunes, Spotify, Audible, wherever you get your podcasts, and just search for Woolen Spinning Radio. It will come up, and the most recent episode is already released. That is the December episode. We talked about the year in review. I had a bunch of questions that I wanted to pose to Rebecca and myself that I wanted to go through and chat with, and we talked about some behind the scenes stuff, how the year went. We said thank you to certain people who needed an extra thank you. Lots and lots of time was spent just reflecting on the year and talking about the year. We are going to be recording another episode for January and giving you a really good heads up on what's coming, because there's a lot coming up in 2024, and it's an opportunity for us to sit and chat through that together. So if you feel like you're missing information, or you're kind of missing out on stuff, or you're not really sure what's coming in January, It's okay. It's coming. I'm working on it. So definitely it's coming. It's coming. I talked about Year of Color already, so we don't need to go through that again. Let's talk about Queries is coming up this coming Saturday, December 23rd, 9 a.m. Pacific for those who are part of that group. And Spinning Staples will be meeting for the last time this month on December 27th before they kick off in the new year, all things Sarah Anderson's book, The Spinner's Book of Yarn Designs. And I don't actually have my book close by here. This is very trippy. Every time I move, I jingle. It feels very odd. So anyways, the Spinning Staples will be sort of a group that will meet together starting in January. They'll be talking about all things Sarah Anderson's book. Again, I'm going to put a pin in that for just a minute because we're going to come back to it in just a sec. So we have all of these grassroots books, grassroots groups that meet as part of the wool and spinning community. Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. Pacific for anybody who wants to come. That's every Tuesday. And then Thursdays at 8 a.m. GMT. So what is it? Greenwich Mean Time. So Britain. They meet at 8 a.m. on Thursday mornings to catch anybody in the Southern Hemisphere. So hopefully that helps with anybody who's down under in Australia. Fiber Prep alternates with Weaving Group on Friday mornings at 8 a.m. Pacific, and that group that sort of gathers every Friday, whether people are working on their weaving or whether people are working on Fiber Prep, is just a wonderful group as well. So hope to see you guys there. All of the links for those Zoom groups are always posted in the Slack channel. So if you're looking for the group and you're looking for the meeting time and you don't have the Zoom link, it's always in the Slack channel, and that's where you can find it, and that's how you join the groups. Book Club is in the Books channel on Slack, and we will be doing a new book in the new year. However, I did this post before yesterday. Yesterday was our sum up our sum up meeting for Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver. So many of us couldn't come. I ended up with a conflict. Rebecca ended up with a blizzard. There was a whole bunch of stuff that happened. So Becca is asking anybody who is part of book club or wants to be part of book club. We have ended up delaying our final discussion of Demon Copperhead to the new year, some week in January. This book group was created during COVID lockdowns when everyone was home and able to meet online to chat books with each other. As life has shifted gears again for many, a weekday meeting at this time, 12 noon Pacific, has meant that so many who would like to chat are not able to join us. Would Sundays at the same time be a workable option for people? So what we're thinking is the same time, but on Sundays instead. And we'll come up with a date in January when we'll gather to finish off David Copperfield. But if you guys could let us know in the Books channel, Becca has like a little poll in there for everybody. And then you'll be able to share if that would work for you if you want to be a part of book club. So that's just a little plug for book club. I needed to say that for those who are part of that so that you guys know what's going on. All right, this is the information about the new year. So we are going to be doing a 2-year study, a 2-year deep dive into Sarah Anderson's book, The Spinner's Book of Yarn Designs. There will be multiple monthly releases by me if you're a Patreon member. And they will be sort of dripped content, pearls of wisdom, previous vlogs, different things that we're thinking about that have to do with specific content from Sarah's book as people move through the book at their own speed and at their own pace on their own. There will be a thread in Ravelry, and there will be a channel on the Slack channel for people to share what they're working on and what they're thinking about, to ask questions, to have discussion. And we're going to be tackling chapter 1 sort of in the first couple of months of 2024. Now, if you would like to be a little bit more involved and you would like to participate in a slightly deeper study of the book, the Wool Circle with Rebecca, which streams at this time on the Tuesdays that we don't have the live stream, that is the place to get sort of more specific topics and ideas around the book, to sort of have a little bit more of a structured dissection of the book, if you will. And then if you want to go even deeper, and you want to be sort of handheld a little bit in a really great way and supported by one another, and have a group that's working on the book together, and where there's a little bit of a syllabus, and where Rebecca sort of puts together a little bit more of a structured teacher's assistant kind of, I don't know what the right word is, but sort of an opportunity to come together, discuss the book, go deeper, study together. Spinning Staples is the group that you want to join. So there are some spots available still, and if you want to hold off until January to join, since there's only one meeting left in December, that's totally fine. Just send me a message, and I can open a spot up for you in January if there isn't space. Spinning Staples is where you're going to dive deeper. You're going to do group learning. Think about it as like the Wool Circle is kind of like where you come for the course and for the lecture, and Spinning Staples is where you go for the deeper learning, for the time with the teacher's assistant. In university, you think of it as like sort of auditing the course, and then the deeper dive into the course with the TA. Rebecca calls it the seminar group. We don't really have that in Canada. Like, that's not language that I'm familiar with, but I know it's something that's more that many of you are more familiar with. So, discussion session, a lab session. Eveline says a nerd party. Yes, I like it. So that is that information there for you guys. So I hope that you want to jump in. We had a great time when we did 51 yarns over 2 years. It was a really good pace for 2 years. And it didn't feel too rushed, and it felt like toward the end we were all ready to be done. So I think over 2 years this will be a really great opportunity. We've talked about this book again and again and again and about doing it, and I feel like I'm finally ready to tackle a bigger project like this. So I hope you guys will think about joining in. And then the last thing that I wanted to mention is the Corespinalong that we have going on in the group right now. And hang on. Yeah, I'm going to talk about it now. I don't want to get ahead of myself. I tend to get ahead of myself, and then, and then I have to like shuffle while I'm doing the live stream, and it's a lot. So I'm going to do this now. So right now in our community, we have our Corespinalong. Today was supposed to be our wrap-up day, and today was supposed to sort of be the end of our Corespinalong, and we were going to sort of celebrate and blah, blah, blah. People are still making yarn, and I was sick all of last week. Nora, our whole family got it. The kids got some sort of a tummy bug, sort of a stomach flu, gut bug kind of a thing, gastro. And I ended up coming down with it. I had about 6 hours of actual symptoms, and then I just haven't felt great ever since. So I feel like I lost the whole week. When I think about it rationally, I know that that's not true, but I feel like I lost the whole week because I just didn't have any energy to do anything and to like put anything together. I really wanted to spin more of this yarn. I didn't. And so I'm just going to put a plug in this, and we're going to celebrate the end of the Corespinalong in the first episode in January. That's January 2nd. That means that there's a couple more weeks to keep spinning and to keep making things. And I'm hoping to do another bells yarn. I have a package of bells right here ready to go. I just need to like pull them out and have a chance to actually like make it and do it. I was hoping to get some video of making this yarn, and I was just too sick, and I didn't do it. So this yarn that I'm wearing, let's talk about it for a few minutes. So it was so much fun to make. I strung all of the bells onto 10-2 cotton. And what was really perfect about this was the 10-2 cotton was thin enough that when you look at the finished yarn, it's not overtly, it doesn't jump out at you and isn't really super obvious. And what I did was I just let it auto wrap around the Corespun. This is why I wanted to get some video of making this yarn, so you guys who haven't done that technique before would be able to see what that looks like. And by holding it in my drafting hand where I was drafting the fiber, I was able to hold it so that the 10-2 cotton wrapped, so just gently wrapped around the Corespun at about a 45-degree angle. It was kind of perfect, and it ended up being really even. In the past, I've allowed auto-wrapped thread to sort of randomly wrap around and sort of, you know, cause little curly cues and go up and down and just kind of go really crazy. But I wanted this to be a little bit more controlled because it had the bells on it. So if I actually show you, let me pause the slideshow here, and I'm just going to go to the one, this photo here. So I pre-strung all of the bells, and I thought for sure that they were going to get super, super tangled. I was really surprised. They got jammed together, but they didn't get tangled. So I actually was able to pull up about 5 to 10 bells at a time and have them, you see on the string down below there, it's actually looped. I've just cropped the photo, but it's looped around there. And I was able to keep about sort of 5 to 10 bells ready to go and ready to pull up. And I thought for sure if I put one bell every length of fiber, so if I put, as I was drafting here, I would put one bell on, and then I would allow that entire length of sort of about 12 to 18 inches of yarn. I would let that wind onto the bobbin, and I thought I would end up with a fairly decent amount of yardage, but this skein ended up being quite small. It's only about 30 yards of yarn, which I was really, really surprised about. And then I was using my jumbo flyer on my Lendrum. So this is where my jumbo flyer on my Lendrum is worth every penny, because I personally don't use it for applying. It's too slow for me. The ratios aren't high enough. But the orifice is a really super big orifice. I think it's like an inch or an inch and a half in diameter. I should probably check that. And then there's only one guide for the yarn to go through. And you would think that the bells would get hooked on every single place that they could possibly get hooked on. Well, I put the uptake a little bit firmer than I normally would for spinning this type of yarn. So I definitely had a firm pull going on the yarn, and I didn't have to hang crank it that much. It got caught when the bigger bells went through. So the little bells, and you can even see in this photo here, you see that little purple bell at the top there by the green one and the red one? That little tiny bell there is actually quite small, and whereas the gold bell that's closest to my finger here is actually quite large, and that's when I would have to hang crank. So it was really fun to make. I did it in one afternoon. I think I had done, it was a day that I'd either had the podcast itself or it was a wool circle day. I can't remember which. But it was a couple of Tuesdays ago now. It was 2 Tuesdays. So it must have been after the live stream. And honestly, I just sat in the afternoon for a couple of hours, put on a movie, and I made this yarn. And it was really fun. And I'm really glad that I did it. I had a lot of fun. So thank you for listening to me wax poetic about it. It was really fun to make. I really enjoyed it. And I'll just check the chat to see if there was any questions about it. Let's see. I love all the different colors and how you made this yarn. Thank you so much, Dion. 30 yards would be enough for the first few rounds of a top-down sweater. Oh my goodness, Christine, can you imagine having the bells on the top-down sweater in the yoke, and then you walk around, and that is such a great idea. And this pack of bells that I got, we have a store here in Canada. I think it exists in the States as well, although I think they might be Canadian. Anyway, it's called Dollarama. It's just a dollar store, but it's actually pretty good. And yes, it has lots of junky stuff, but it actually is really good for certain things. And this kind of stuff, like crafting supplies, they're really good for. So I found this pack of bells that was 3 different sizes, and they were all mixed in color in each size. So it was small, medium, and large. Whereas this pack isn't quite as good, but I couldn't get another one with the purple. These bells are all the medium size, and it's only the red, green, and gold. Whereas this pack of bells had the purple as well and the blue, which I think is just kind of pretty. It's just fun. You guys know how I feel about green and red together. It's not my favorite, but when you throw gold in there, it's actually pretty good. It's actually kind of nice. So my next plan is to make a whole bunch of roll legs, just like I did for this. And with this yarn here, I actually put a tiny bit of blue into the yarn. So I don't know if you can see here. You can see in the yarn, there's those areas that are sort of like pale blue, just really light blue. That's from in the roll legs that I made. I put a little bit of blue from my Year of Color, like leftover fiber in there. And I think for this yarn, I would put in a little bit of red and a little bit of green. But overall keep sort of that white feel. So it's almost like bells on snow sort of idea. But now you guys have me thinking about making a yoke. Wouldn't that be hilarious? It'd be just like a fun, because you could knit so that you pull all the bells to the front. That is not a bad idea. Oh, good to see you, Diane. Thank you for joining. And Deborah's here as well. Yeah, so fun. I have been loving the jumbo flyer and the bobbin on the Lendrum for core spinning. It's just the right ratios. Suzanne said it can't be beat. It's just got the right ratios. And I find the biggest, slowest ratio is a little bit too slow, but the next one down for me personally is perfect. I didn't talk about the core of this yarn. So what I used was some sock yarn that I had in my stash. It was old sock yarn, just undyed. Commercial sock yarn, and what I did was I threw it through my e-spinner first in the Z direction to take out as much twist as possible, so that when I went to core spin the core and core spin the fiber around it, here you can see me holding the core there. It's the yarn that's on the closest to me, and then the fiber is next, and then the auto wrap is next. I took as much of the twist out as I possibly could without having it completely fall apart. And then I spun in the S direction. So I took the twist out in the opposite direction because it was a S finished yarn. So I took that twist out and then put it back in when I was core spinning. So actually the finished yarn isn't too bad in terms of twist. I did dunk it in water and washed it that way, and then I hung it to dry. So I did completely submerge it in warm water. So yeah, really fun, super creative, really fun. It was just a fast project. I enjoyed making it. It was great. And you can see it here. It's just really fun. And it's been hanging on my Christmas branch. I was gonna undo it out of the skein and hang it on the tree, but because it does have a little bit of twisty curly cues in it, I thought it was a recipe for disaster in terms of like getting tangled. So I didn't do that. All right. We've got lots more to talk about, you guys. So why don't we run the credits and I'll see you on the other side. A thank you to our sponsor, Brother Drum Carder. They are dedicated to giving you the very best of carding products with a focus on quality, affordability, and customer satisfaction. They are beginning to build mill processing equipment, so please stay tuned. Be sure to check out the new products on their website and follow them on Facebook and Instagram at Brother Drum Carder. All right, we have some 100 days of spindle spinning to talk about. So I am so enjoying this. Is anybody doing 100 days of spindle spinning? Who here is doing the 100 days? This started off as a event that Andrea Mowry was going to do. So she had put out there on social media, I'm going to do 100 days of spindle spinning. I want to improve on my spindling. This is what I'm going to do. And so everybody was like, that sounds great. And I think it was Tashi that actually was like, can I join you? And so Andrew was like, of course, let's have everybody. So there's lots of people who are doing it, and which is awesome. I really wanted to continue to improve on my support spindling. So I feel really confident now with my supported spindling. And so what I decided to do was to just keep working on that. Keep pulling out my spindles, keep working on it, keep doing stuff, keep coming up with projects that I could work on, that I could do, that I could make. So I started off with finishing off my Sari silk that I had been working on, those roll legs, forever. And we'll talk about that yarn in a few minutes. And so the first probably 5 or 6 days, I think it was 5 to 7 days, was just spent spinning those last 2 or 3 row legs. I had like 2 or 3 left and I just put my head down and did it. So Lisa's doing it, Dion, Suzanne, Diane. She's going to do about 85 to 86 days. That's very specific, Diane. Diana says she's doing it as well. She's done it every day so far, and like all practice, getting better and faster all the time, which is totally how I feel. Eveline ordered a spindle. That totally counts. And I think one of the things about something like this is it's a long event. It's going to go all the way till March 10th. And the only reason why I remember that is because it's my brother's birthday. And it's just really an opportunity to come together as a community. So I don't know about you guys, but I don't spend a lot of time on Instagram. I don't spend any time on Facebook whatsoever. And I have really noticed on Instagram that when we have spinning events like this, it really brings the community together. Whether it's drop spindling, support spindling, you know, just seeing photos, people sharing what they're working on, people doing what they're doing. It's just really cool to see people coming together as a community, because so many of us are making in silo. We're on our own, we're by ourselves. We don't have a big local community, or we do have a local community, but we're not gathering together very often. We're, you know, spending time together when we can. We're seeing each other at guild meetings or at events that happen, you know, throughout the year or throughout the months, but we're not making together on a regular basis day after day after day. And so an event like this is just really, really fun to see people come together and just be making, you know, and celebrating making things. So I've been keeping track of my journey on my Instagram stories. And if you want to follow me and follow what I'm doing, I'm at Spinning on Instagram, and I thought I would share, you know, sort of day after day of what I'm doing. Last week, with us being so sick, I did miss 2 or 3 days, and then I missed yesterday. The kids had their Christmas concert at school yesterday, and it ended up being a nutty day, just absolutely nutty. We all kind of crashed on the couch at like 7:30 in the evening, and we were all in bed by about 8:15. I was fast asleep. We were just so tired. So yeah, Diana says it's so great to see the variety and the styles of spindles. They're all coming out of the woodwork and being photographed, which I love, because so often, so many of us, we keep them put away and we don't use them. And I actually pulled all of my favorites. I'll try and move this without spilling it. If there's a big crash, you'll know what happened. I pulled all of mine out for this. These are all of my favorite spindles. And I pulled them out, and over the course of the 100 days, I'm hoping to be able to sort of showcase each of them and talk about why I like them, why I chose one over another. And it's been really fun to just kind of spin through them and use them. So this is going to keep on playing. I'm going to take a slight voice break and just take a sip of coffee. I've got oat nog in my coffee. It's so good. Diane says that's why she's only doing 85 to 86 days. It's because she's allowing for misses. I like that. You know, I think it's funny, like Ellen said she wanted to do it, but she saw it too late and she'd be too far behind. Honestly, I think it's one of those things where it's just jump in where you are. You know, if you're at the point where you have your stuff, you've got some fiber that you'd like to spin, just jump in. There's no hard and fast rule. It's fine to be late, because if you're always on time and you catch everything, you'll just have way too much, because there is so much out there. And I don't know about you guys, but I have really noticed that there is a lot more like events going on online. Like, have you guys noticed there's just more trying to come together, trying to sort of foster that sense of community together, trying to gather online? I think during COVID, a lot of us, were able to do a lot of that online stuff, like through Zoom and different Instagram events, all the different stuff. And since we have gotten to being more open, being able to go out a lot, other areas of the world weren't quite as locked down as we were in places, but I think people are really still trying to create that sense of, you know, community and onlineness, because many of us who make all this stuff, we don't know a lot of people. So yeah, I think that's really, really special. It is overwhelming to try to keep up, and you can only commit to so many things. Diane, you're always the voice of reason. It's so true. And Lisa says, seriously, you have tons of time left. Absolutely. Just jump right in. I've actually wondered about, in the Ravelry group, doing a group for 100 days so that people can start where they are, and they'll remember, because they'll know where their post is of where they started on their 100 days, and then you can just add to the end of it. There's going to be people that are going to be spindle spinning way into March and April, because then the weather starts to get better. People are out and about and, you know, enjoying backyard barbecues, all that kind of stuff. There's always an upsurge in spindle spinning in the summer, always. So this is where I am now. So this was where I finished off on day 17, and it's day 19 today. And you guys, and this is where I have finished off. So you might be wondering what project this is, so I'll tell you all about it. So let me just tell you quickly what these spindles are, because somebody inevitably will ask and I'll forget to say. So this is a Mirkwood POK, P-O-K. This might actually be my favorite spindle. Of all of my spindles, supported spindles that I have, it's heavy, so be warned. But it's probably my favorite spindle. It's simple. I would love to, he has other options for the top of the shaft where you actually can have a gem that's embedded up here. I would love to try this spindle with that instead of the point, just to try it, because I love this spindle so much. So that's my Mirkwood. This is my Nitty Naughty UK. It's just a Tibetan, one of their Tibetans, and I have 2 of these. I bought them as my very first supported spindle because I didn't know what else to buy, and there wasn't a lot of information at that time out there about support spindling, and I didn't know who else was an option. So I have 2 of these. It's taken me a long time to appreciate these ones. They are excellent. They are fantastic spindles, and like my POK, this isn't a need to have, and it's certainly not something that I would say makes it my favorite with either of these, but they do have metal beads. Both of them have a metal bead on the tip. I like my spindles that don't have metal at the tip as well. The metal does not make it or break it for me. That's not why I love these spindles per se, like specifically. But they do spin very smoothly, both of them. And they just happen to be metal tipped. This one is by Silly Salmon. I know that his spindles are getting harder to get. I think there's health problems or health issues, if my memory serves. But this is a beautiful spindle. I think my friend Diana has a blue one. And again, this one is one of my favorites. It has a metal bead at the tip there. And yeah, it's just a beautiful, beautiful spindle. They all spin beautifully. So what am I working on? So what I've been working on, I pulled out of deep, deep stash. This is from 2016. This gradient set of BFL. It's one of Katrina's very first gradient sets that she made when she first started Crafty Jacks. And I have done 4 of the colors so far, and I have these 7 left out of 11. 7 plus 4, yeah. So I have these 4 left. So what I've been doing is I've been taking them from the nest, because they've been sitting in here since 2016 in my closet, just sitting. And so what I did was I started with the purple on the far right side there, and I laid them all out, just had sort of reminded myself of what it looked like, and do I want to just spin them as is. They were all carded, but I decided to make row legs, and I did them on the blending board. I made them super light, lots of air, and I added in clear Firestar. So this one here was the very first one. Nope, I lie. It was this one. My Silly Salmon was the very first one, and then this was my second one, because I have to keep them in order because I have to know like how the gradient goes. And I'm trying not to spin so thin. That's been the big goal with this one this time round, has been just trying not to spin quite so thin. So as I'm drafting, I'm catching myself from drafting even thinner and just really trying to keep myself, just not getting so thin. And we'll talk about why in a few minutes when we talk about my Sari silk yarn. So I'm just going to spin them in order. When I sort of get to a point with a spindle where I've spun 1 or 2 colors onto it, and I'm sort of like, yeah, that's probably could fit more. Don't need to keep spinning on it. Could go to another spindle. I'm just going on to the next spindle and just trying to keep them in order. So I've been getting through in the 15-minute sessions. Holy smokes, you can get a lot done. I have spun through already, I just finished the 4th color. I'm on to the 5th color. I need to make more row legs today. In the 15-minute sessions, it takes me about 2 days to finish one of these. That's fast. That's fast. So I think I'll get through this. Like, I might even get through this by Christmas. I did spin for a full hour when, what was I doing that I had an hour? And I sat there and I just spun and spun and spun. Oh, the wool circle last week. And that's actually how I got my Sari silk yarn done. So let's talk about Skeined finished yarn. I am so excited to share this yarn with you. I have a skein here of it's about 600 yards of 4-ply yarn. This is a year of spinning, and it's so small, and it feels so insignificant, and it's not, but it's over 600 yards. And because there's no elasticity to it, and there's no bounce or sproing to it because of the amount of Sari silk that was in these row legs, it feels very planty. It feels, even though it's silk and it's a protein fiber, it just feels very planty. It doesn't have any stretch. And it literally, the drape in this is just gonna be awesome. So this is organic Polworth. I think it's like, I should look actually. I didn't look before when I was getting ready for the podcast, and the only reason is because I had some other stuff that I was a little bit more concerned about getting ready. But I'm pretty sure, I didn't write it in my notes. Darn, I always do, and I didn't. That's so unusual for me. I'll find the label later today and I'll post it in my Ravelry projects page. But basically, it was something like 67% organic Polworth, and then it was like 36% or something Sari silk, and then I feel like there was something else in here as well. Anyhow, it's a lot of Sari silk, and it gives you just this unbelievable texture and unbelievable drape and hang, but this doesn't have any bounce or sproing to it. There's no memory to it per se. But a year of support spindle spinning these, the density of the row legs really meant that I had to, pull off chunks from the row legs, pre-draft them, and then spin that chunk and then keep going. And it felt like in the middle of the project, when I was about halfway through the row legs, it literally felt like I was going to be spinning it forever. It did take me well over a year, but intentionally working on it, it took all of 2023. So this is kind of like my capstone for 2023, this finished yarn. And the overall color feel of it is kind of a reddy purple. I have another set of these in my stash, and they're more like a blue. And I was originally gonna spin it all and use it together in one project, but now I actually would really like to just feature them separately and not put a bunch of pressure on myself to do this project again. But before I applied the 4-ply, I wound all of my support spindles off, and you saw the photo of all of my support spindles all full of this fiber and of this yarn. And I did a little tester skein of plying before I really got into the plying. So some of this little tester skein is 3-ply, and some of this little tester skein is 2-ply. So if I hold this up closer to the camera, you can see how truly thin this is. It is just too thin to do much with for me. And it's very textured. So if you notice, right here is a great spot for you to have a look. Because that part of the yarn is probably only a 2-ply, you can see how the threads and the silk is actually working its way free, because the fibers are wrapped around each other like this, but there's all this surface area, right, where the fibers are sort of exposed to the elements and are exposed outward. And so as I was sort of fingering with this and playing with it and just touching it and looking at it, bits and pieces of the yarn started to fall out, and it just kind of disintegrates in your hand. So even when I cranked up the twist, because this is actually very, very high twist, you can see how this, you know, even after washing, this still twists. So it's not a balanced yarn after washing. It's still got a lot of active twist in it. So even with all of that extra twist, there's just bits and pieces of the yarn that's just coming free. Like, it's just not staying locked in and locked together. You can see it working its way free there. All different areas of the yarn. You can look at anywhere. And so when I was looking at this little, you know, finished skein, I was like, it's spun so finely because of the support spindle and the learning curve. And on top of that, with the fine spinning, now you've got all those bits and pieces of the sari silk and the threads and everything coming free. So the only option was a multiply. So I love how I say, like, the only option, like, of course you have to do a multiply. So much work, so much work. And so if you notice with the 4-ply, a lot of those areas where the sari silk and the threads and stuff are poking out, they're not working their way free quite as badly. And it just seemed to, the 4-ply seemed to be able to lock in a lot more of the fibers because you've got less surface area of each individual singles popping out to the outside world and to the elements, literally. So it just seemed to kind of make a smoother yarn, lock things in without losing the lightness and the airiness of that woolen spinning, of that really airy, light yarn that you get off of a off of a supported spindle, because there's no weight pulling on the yarn like you get with a suspended spindle or a drop spindle. And there's not that pulling motion that you get when you're working on a spinning wheel, where the singles have to withstand the tension of being pulled onto the bobbin, or in a suspended spindle being pulled down toward the ground. So with a supported spindle, because that's all supported and you've got the, you know, the spindle here and you're drafting off of it, there's nothing pulling on that yarn. And it just seems to make this really light, airy, really cool yarn. It's my supported spindle spun yarns are very different from my other yarns that I make. And my yarns that I make on my suspended spindles, on my drop spindles, that yarn is different again because it's so unbelievably consistent. My drop spindle yarns are, there's just nothing like my drop spindle yarns. They're so consistent. And it's because as I'm drafting basically a short forward, and it's just so consistent. Fine, but consistent. And this is fine, woolen, and needed those singles to all come together to make a multiply, to really make a substantial yarn. So now that this is washed, I won't lose a lot of yardage from washing. It won't shrink up a ton because of that silk. It won't shrink to the same extent as what we would expect if this was 100% wool. But I do need to recalculate my yardage because I was up at like something like 620 yards or something when I was wrapping. And I think I either lost count or I didn't, or I'm correct. It'll be interesting to see what the actual finished yardage is, because I feel like this is more like 500 yards, but I could be wrong. I totally could be wrong. We will see. We will see. How did you get part of the sample skein to be 2-ply and part of it 3-ply? I just dropped one of the singles halfway through. So halfway through, one of the bobbins had run out of singles, and I wanted to see what the 3-ply was versus the 4-ply, how they felt. Like I can see that this part of the yarn, it's so funny, I can see it right here. This part of the yarn is rounder, and so I know that this part is 3-ply. It's just rounder. It doesn't have a flatness to it like this part of the yarn does, which is here, which is a 2-ply. You can see it here. This just is flatter. It just looks flatter. It's more oval. The 2 singles don't lay quite as nicely together, whereas with the 3-ply, they're super, super round, and they look really nice together. So I just dropped one of the singles. I wasn't concerned about whether this was like structurally sound. I mean, it's so fine. The single is not going to poke out and like unravel. But I just wanted to see the difference, and I knew after washing that I would be able to tell in the sample. I'm not going to use this. If anything, it's a really great example of why sometimes it's worthwhile to go the extra step and do a little bit more spinning for the payoff of something like a 4-ply. So yeah, I hope that helps, Dorothy. Stunning yarn. Thank you so much, Suzanne. I'm just catching up on chat. You guys are sometimes so fast that I just can't keep up. You guys are awesome. All right. So that is spindling and finished skeined yarn. I talked about the gradient set that I'm working on, and I talked about the 100 days, and I talked about my finished yarn, my skeined yarn. So why don't we talk about spinning itself, like on the wheel? Okay, so before I got sick, I had these grand plans because, you know, I do tend to be a bit of a planner. And I really wanted to do a Christmas spin this year. I wanted to do a really like holiday inspired Christmas spin. Sorry for the crinkling. And I pulled out of my stash 2 braids because I had 2 braids of this in my stash. I knew that I only had the 2, and I had a 3rd one that I had already spun years ago. So this is 2015 Fiber Club from Sweet Georgia. It's called Wistmas, and it's 100% BFL. And this was the club colorway when Sweet Georgia was still doing club for that Christmas, for that December. And this has been in my stash since then, since 2015. So I have 2 braids left of this, and then I have a skein that I've already spun of this. It's quite compacted because it's been braided like this in the bag, in this bag, for the last 8 years. I love this colorway. I've held on to it all these years because I really love it and I really liked it, and I enjoyed spinning it at the time for Fiber Club when I was doing that for Felicia and posting on their blog about my spinning. And what was really cool about this particular colorway was that there was an intern that was working with them for a semester at school, and I think he was a bit of a like sort of intern co-op sort of program, and he was a ceramics student from Emily Carr. And so because of his ceramics background, when he went to, his name was Ray, when he went to do the, I don't know why I remember that, but anyways, I did. When he went to design the colorway for the Fiber Club for December, the overall feeling of the colorway really had a pottery kind of influence. It felt like ceramic glaze. And so when you unbraid all of this, and I'll show you it in a moment, this all really feels like the way glaze mixes on pottery prior to firing it. And so I have held on to these, and a few weeks ago I sort of had this moment of inspiration where I was like, it's only 2 braids. I can totally spin 2 braids in December. And then we got sick. So I have been working on it in the background, and I have been doing stuff on this since. But what I did is, because it's been skeined, it's been braided up for so long, I did my new thing that I love to do that was inspired by my friend Kim McKenna, and I put the roving on my hand cards. I stripped it down into 4. So each of those braids I stripped so that there was 4 lengths of fiber. Why isn't this stopping? There we go. Stop. There we go. I stripped them into 4, and then I put my hand card, I attached it to our kitchen counter, and I've been basically creating, you know, just a nice airy prep off the hand card. So you're not carding when you're doing this prep. You're just dizzing it off to create a really lovely, airy, blended prep. It basically pre-attenuates the fiber. And what happens when you, at the end, is you have this mass. It's the same as what I did for my Bramble Ridge spin back in the fall. If you're wondering about that spin, that was podcast episodes in late October, early November. You end up with this sort of pile of fiber. And back then I loaded it onto my distaff. I probably should have done that with this as well. But honestly, I've just been putting it in bags because I just don't have, with being sick and whatnot, I just don't want to be doing anything fiddly. So sorry for the crinkling again, but you can really see in this fiber that blended feeling, especially where this color, where this kind of like, it's almost like an ochre, greeny, yellowy kind of, but then you get this blending in here. It really feels, especially in here, it just feels like ceramic glaze. So this one is my last one to spin. I've done 3. I have the last one to go. And then I need to do the second braid and I'll ply them together. Just super simple 2-ply, just like I did with the Bramble Ridge with the BFL for that, because it's just such a lovely prep, and it's light and it's airy and it's not fiddly and it's just nice. So, oh, Diana, you got another one too, way back when. Can you believe 2015? These braids are from 2015. So I have been spinning this up, and I've just been using my Magic Susie. I've kept the ratios actually quite low, and the reason for that is that I just have been really enjoying recently spinning in a way that's just not so fast. Sorry for the coughing. The video is right where I am sitting. So I'm going to move the video so that you guys can see my hands. So I hope that that's a bit better. Makes it a bit smaller and it's not whole screen, but at least you can see what my hands are doing, and I'm not sitting here talking and you guys are like, Rach, move, you're annoying, you're in the way. So I've kept the ratio quite a bit lower than I normally do. And one of the reasons is because as I was dizzing off the fiber, it's not really roving, but it's not comb top. I guess it is comb top, even though it's coming off the hand carder. It was comb top, and now you're just realigning it and dizzing it. So I guess it is still comb top. But it ends up coming off of the hand cards so light and so airy. And if you, as you're dizzing, if you just take a few fibers and you keep it really, really, really light and really, where you draft and you let the diz kind of fall to your hand, and then gently push the diz up, and then grab a few more fibers and pull, and then push the diz up again, rather than sort of this like push-pull kind of, I see it on YouTube and stuff all the time when people are using dizzes. They tend to sort of grab the fiber and they push the diz up as they're pulling back. So there's kind of this like opposite motion. Whereas if you just grab a few of them, if you just place the diz and grab a few fibers and pull, so my hand is completely off the diz, and then very gently push the diz up and then pull the next few fibers, it really creates this really light, really lovely prep. And I've been sort of playing with that, just trying to keep it really light and really airy and really gentle. And then what ends up happening is here you've got just this lovely prep that you can just sit and spin, and really creates almost kind of a brainless spinning experience, because your hands can just do what they know how to do. I don't even have to watch my hands. I can feel what's going on as I spin. And because of that, I kept the ratio really low rather than my usual like 27 to 1, 28 to 1. I'm down around like more like 11, 12 to 1, to keep that lightness and that loftiness in the yarn where there isn't sort of so much twist being pushed into the BFL and being kind of pummeled into it. So that what I'm hoping for is the finished yarn will be really light and airy, and it'll create a little bit of a slightly fuzzier, because the ends won't be so tucked in and so tightly spun, that it'll be a bit lighter and a little bit airier. And those single, and it'll allow those fibers to almost kind of blend together, more like what we see in a woolen spun yarn. So I'll report back in the new year. We'll see how it goes. So far so good, and I'm really enjoying spinning it. I hope I can get it done for January 2nd. I'm really hoping that I really can spin this over this coming weekend and work on it, and really like truly have a Christmas yarn to work on while I'm doing while we're doing Christmas stuff, you know, while we're just sort of, you know, we're really trying to have a quieter, just a quieter, gentler Christmas this year. And, you know, after being so sick and whatnot, we need to slow down for a couple of weeks and have some hibernation time. My feet do seem to be moving a bit faster with this, and I think it's compensating for the lower ratio, but it's been consistent. Like, I've been really consistent in making sure that, you know, the yarn is twist locked, that it's actually like the singles are structurally sound, but not quite so much. So yeah, my feet are definitely compensating for that lower ratio, Eve, for sure. She's just asking if my feet are moving faster, because I do tend to treadle very, very slowly. All right. What do we have next? We have a lot to cover today. Okay, let's talk about a little bit of knitting, because it is behind me and it's already on my dress form, and we can do that next. I don't know when the credits roll, the mic is still on in the background, and every time I move when the credits are on, it jingles, and I'm like, I wonder if they can hear that. Okay, I was a little tiny bit naughty on the weekend because I need another project, like I need a hole in my head, but I actually started a new project, and I don't have the yarn right here because it fell on the ground. This is a really interesting yarn, and it's Drops Air, so it's by Garn Studio. What it says on the label is that it's a medium thick blown yarn made of baby alpaca and merino wool, but it doesn't actually give you, it's only 7% wool. It's 65% alpaca, and then it's 28% nylon, which is sort of an interesting thing. But when you look at the yarn, it's one of those yarns, maybe you guys can help me with the vernacular, with the right language, but it's one of those yarns that's it's basically an I-cord. It's like sewn, it's knitted. Sewn and knitted are two different things, but you know what I mean? Like when I look at it, the nylon is holding the yarn together in like sort of what looks like rows of I-cord, and then the alpaca and the merino like basically stick out. It's a really interesting yarn. Eve says she thinks I should dance for you guys so I can jingle. But this colorway, so the way that I ended up with this yarn, it's a very affordable yarn. It's not an expensive yarn at all. Chainette, thank you so much, Rebecca. I was like, there's got to be a word for it, and I knew that there, like, I was gonna call it chainette, but then I was like, no, you guys will know for sure. Yes, thank you, Rebecca. So it's a chainette. I haven't worked with a chainette since I made a toque for Nora with sequins in it a few years ago, and it's interesting because that yarn has not lasted. There's a big hole in that toque which I have to graft and I've got to fix, but I've been putting it off because she's been continuing to wear it, which is not good because it's making the hole bigger. But I'm kind of dreading trying to figure out how to put a patch in the middle of her toque so that she'll actually still want to wear it. So I'm thinking I'm gonna have to actually graft the knit stitches and actually fix it properly. Anyhow, we were in the yarn shop on the weekend because of needing something for a different project that I'll talk about in January, just because I barely started it, and it's weaving and it's kind of like a whole right hand turn. It's for my sister-in-law for her stole for her 40th birthday next year. And I saw this yarn and there was a sample knit in the shop, and I don't do this very often. I think in my whole knitting career I've done it maybe 2 or 3 times, maybe. I saw the sweater and I was like, I love that. And I love the colorway that they had chosen, and I just wanted it. I didn't want to knit the project. I didn't want to make the yarn. I didn't want to have to buy a really expensive knitting pattern. I just wanted the sweater. If I had been in a store, I would have bought the sweater. I've wanted a top-down raglan baggy fit type sweater for a while, and this one just fit the bill. So you knit 4 inches of twisted rib for the collar, and there's short row shaping at the back, and then you just start your decreases, your increases, and your increases are quite a bit faster on the front and back compared to the sleeves. So the sleeves are actually being built more slowly. So if you see here, my dear friend Diana here, these are my sleeve stitches between these 2 markers. And you can see that they're growing quite a bit slower than the back and the front. And the idea is that you've just got this really oversized, comfy raglan sweater. And I wish I had thought about grabbing a photo of the sweater off of Ravelry for you guys, but the problem is it's in Espace Tricot pattern. She only takes photos of the sweater on a hanger, so you don't get a sense of what it looks like on the model. And in the store, they had it on a Diana doll, and in the window actually it looked really, really nice with a big oversized cowl on top with glitter. You had me at glitter or like sequins. So now I want to make that too, but I have hand spun to make that with. And I think it just caught me at the right time, at the right moment, and it wasn't huge needles, but light enough yarn that I would be able to knit it. So the ribbing is done on 4.5mm or US size 7, and the body of the sweater is done on 5.5mm or US size 9, and that's why I have so much of it knit already, is because of being sick and sitting and not doing a lot. And I have to really say, over the last few years, I've been wearing my clothes increasingly more baggy, but I don't look great in really huge oversized stuff. It just doesn't suit my body shape. And a lot of that's because I carry my weight on my lower half. So making my upper half bigger is not flattering for me. So this is a real test, it's really testing me to not separate for the sleeves and the body early, because I'm kind of at the point where I normally would do that, like sort of within the next inch or two, like right around here. And the patterns like keep on going because it's more of a the longer raglan kind of what do they call that? It's not a capelet. This pattern's not a capelet, it's a sweater, but it's meant to be worn with about 10 to 15 inches of positive ease. That's a lot. So once I get down to around like the bra line, we'll see how much more I go, because it does get to just be too big. So I'm trusting the sweater gods, and I'm just going with it. So yeah, a swancho or a poncho, that's kind of the idea, right? It's got that like lots of positive ease. I wish there was a really good photo that I could show you guys. Because I know you guys know what these sweaters are like, but they're quite oversized. They're quite, it's a lot of sweater. I maybe can pull up, let me see if I can really quickly, we've got time in the sense that like we're not in any rush today. I was fully sort of anticipating that we would have a longer show today. Let me see if I can share with you guys what it looks like, because honestly, then you guys, for those who don't know this sweater, you'll sort of get it immediately. So this is the actual sweater. So this by Espace Tricot. Excuse me, sorry. So there's 2 options. The first option is a split hem, where you can see right at the bottom here, there's the split bottom where you like the Weekender actually, where you split the hem, and then the other option is just to knit straight and to finish off the hem in one big piece. In the shop, the the sample was a split hem, and I have to admit I really like a split hem, so I probably will be doing that. But you can see how big this is. This is meant to be like a swan show. So we will see how this goes. All right. Okay, so that is that. That is ongoing. I suspect that it will be finished relatively quickly. This is only a couple of hours of knitting, to be honest. And it's been fun to just knit a mindless project. Nothing major, super easy. Yeah. All right. What should we talk about next? We have lots of finished objects to talk about, so let's do that. Okay, so Eve says you could wear that in front of the fire with a hot chocolate, and Lisa says it's going to be snuggly. That's why I wanted it. You guys just nailed it, because what I sort of find with some of the stuff that I have is it's not stuff that I would just throw on to like do the school drop off, because I just need something to like throw on, run to the school, come home, and then I'm just working on stuff for the rest of the day, and I'm just kind of sitting or, you know, going out for a walk or whatever. I just need stuff that I can muck about in. That's what I need. So I think that's why it sort of spoke to me, if you will. Okay, do you guys want to do Trinigan or Weekender Light first? We have a lot of FOs to talk about. That's why the show is going to be long. We're almost done though. We're way more than halfway. So do you guys want to do Trinigan first, or do you want to do Weekender Light first? I'm thinking we should probably do Trinigan, actually. I'm thinking Trinigan is the way to go because, yeah. Okay, Trinigan is done. So you guys remember all of this that we did. I'm going to let you guys watch the photos while I redress my dear Diana here. This sweater has been on the needles forever. You guys know that. Let me see if I can pull the sleeves through, and then I'll make it big so that you guys can see like the finished effect. I'm actually kind of surprised at how much I like this sweater. Now that it's done, and now that I'm through that, like, what's it gonna look like? How much pink is there gonna be? How is that gonna look? I actually kind of appreciate the sweater now. I'm still calling it my grape jelly, and I'm still kind of bowled over by the amount of pink, but it's not terrible. It is very oversized. It's big. You can see the sleeves, you know, came out like just exactly how it's called for in the pattern. What you do is once you finish the yoke, you seam all of this together, and then you pick up and you knit in the round for the sleeves. And I didn't increase the size of the needles for the sleeves, even though it's mosaic and she recommends it. I was able to moderate my gauge enough with this one that I didn't have to change the needle size. With my pressed flowers, which was also mosaically knitted, I did have to. But with this one, I didn't. And the sleeve is already so oversized that honestly, I didn't sort of worry if it came out a little tiny bit smaller. And then I did undo the cuffs. After last episode, I did undo the cuffs and I redid the 2x2 sewn off ribbing, and it worked out beautifully. So in the end, it is definitely like it's a fair sized sweater. It's a lot of fabric. It's quite long. And, you know, if I put Diana back a little bit, you guys can see like how far down it comes. It's got, you know, all this ribbing. I thought in the pattern that this was going to be like 5 or 6 inches of ribbing. It's not. It's quite a bit shorter than that, but it's still a significant amount of ribbing. Casting off and doing this sewn bind off, I think I told you guys last time, it took me like an entire movie plus some. So this alone was a lot of work. And I think that's something about these big sweaters is, you know, they do take a long time, a big sweater jacket like this. But the end and the finished result is it's just worth it. Like, look at that. It's just so pretty. And up close, there's all these nuances with the brown and the blue, and there's purple in there, and like the yarn, the hand spun really does, it really works. This is still not my favorite color. I'm not sure why I felt so possessed to having to have this particular yarn in this particular color. However, thank goodness I bought the number of balls that I did. I think I ended up buying 7 in the end because this is all I have left. So from all that sewing, all that ribbing, this is it. So I'm glad that I stopped on the ribbing when I did, because I was convinced that I had another ball, and I've looked everywhere and I do not. This is it. So I am glad that I sort of punted when I did. Yeah, I'm sort of, I'm happy with sort of how this came out. Dion says, I might have just sighed when you said you liked it. I don't know how much I'm going to wear it, honestly, Dion. Suzanne says, I love it, Rachel. I think it will look great on you, and I don't see it as being too pink. The color is muted, and the colorway really looks a lot more neutral. I still wouldn't be opposed to over dyeing this, but I can put it on for you guys. After sort of showing it to you on Diana, I don't really have an outfit on that I would necessarily wear with this. But if I move my chair off to the side here for you guys, it's just, I'm just going to pull my hair right down by the side so that when I turn to the back, you guys can actually see the back. But that's what the back looks like. And like it's got this great detail on the shoulder. I love. I love this. I think that is actually what has finally sold me on the sweater, is it's this. It's a 3-needle bind off, but done to the outside, and I just love stuff like that. I don't know why, I just do. So I would take wagers about how much I'm going to wear this. Seriously, I would take wagers. I'm kind of leaning towards surprising myself and thinking that I'm probably going to wear it more than I think that I am. So I would love to check back in with you guys this time next year and see what you think, and see how much I've worn it. Because I have the black t-shirt underneath actually doesn't look too bad just from like seeing it there in the camera. But I also have a long sleeved crew neck brown t-shirt that I actually wear a lot. Because it's just a plain brown t-shirt. And because I really love brown, and it's a dark brown, I actually think that with this, it would just tone the pink right down, just like what Dion was saying, or Suzanne was saying, and it'll just tone it right down. And I actually probably, like I could see myself, if it looks right, and if in my head what I'm thinking actually plays out in real life, I could actually see myself wearing it quite a bit. So we'll see. I will report back. My friend Sarah wears stuff like this all the time. She buys it. She's not a maker. And she's always wearing these fun outfits and whatnot. And she has these crazy jackets that she wears, these crazy sweaters and stuff. And I always look at her and I always think, like, where do you get that confidence to wear that stuff? And it suits her. It suits her personality. She's very extroverted. And I think there comes a point where you just have to wear it. You just do. So yeah, thank you, Diana. She says it looks great with the black top and the jeans. Thank you. It makes an everyday outfit look fancy. That's true. Yeah. Yeah, and I was just saying about needing some stuff to just like muck about in. I also need some stuff that is a little bit nicer than muck about. How does it feel on the shoulders, and does it sit kind of far back? So, interesting question, Rebecca, because of course you being a sweater knitter like me, you're aware of that kind of stuff. It feels like a house coat. It like, or I imagine what maybe a kimono would feel like if you were dressing in sort of a Japanese, one of my friends who grew up in Japan, she has one where it's like it's just exactly like this shape, and it's out of this, oh my goodness, beautiful fabric. And it's the seam of it, I always notice it because the seam of it sits on the back shoulder, and I always think, oh, that looks like it's gonna slide off and slide back. but it actually is really comfortable. It doesn't feel like it's gonna move anywhere and like it's gonna go anywhere. It actually feels like how it's supposed to sit and how it's supposed to fit. So I do wonder if after wearing this, because it feels like the ribbing is down. Like sometimes I feel like with these, they're supposed to be up here more, but that's not really how they're meant to fit. That's not really how they're meant to sit either. So I'll report back. Yeah. Dion says you just sold me on it since you said house coat. That's what it feels like. It feels like a house coat. It feels like wearing a house coat. All right, let's do the next finished object. Now that I can move around and I'm not jingle belling, I took off the necklace because every time I moved, it's making tons of noise. Maybe I won't put this on Diana. I'll just put it on. This is the Weekender Light. I finished this last week. It took me a day to finish the sleeves. And they're a little bit short. I put it on, I'm not wearing the right t-shirt underneath, obviously, but I'll try and just give you guys the gist of this. It fits really well in a lot of ways, but the sleeves are a bit short. So it said to stop knitting at about 14.5 inches. And that's not quite long enough for me. I need a longer sleeve. I have tons of yarn left over. And I can absolutely knit more. And you guys can see my t-shirt underneath here, and this isn't like, normally I wouldn't want the t-shirt all showing and whatnot, but in an effort to sort of show you guys this and to be able to showcase the finished sweater, it fits really super well. I'm really, really glad that I lengthened it. I would wear this like this probably. I'd probably tuck it in at the front just to make it a little bit fancier. And then I either need to lengthen the sleeves and bring them right down, or like, do you see how the shoulder is supposed to drop more, right? Like it's supposed to be more dropped, and then your sleeves are supposed to come down to here. And I think this is one of those situations where I need to either wear it and it'll just kind of ease up in time, or I need to lengthen the sleeves, one or the other. I probably won't lengthen the sleeves because this is a tubular cast off, and I don't want to undo that. But I think it turned out really, really well. I really like it. I don't like all this bulk up here right now just because I've got all this stuff underneath. It's gray and rainy here today, and it's dark. But yeah, it's okay. I need to figure out how to wear it. And it needs to like loosen up. It needs to be not quite so close. But the yarn is great and it turned out nicely. It's next to the Skin Soft, and I like how it feels, and I'll get some photos of it and I'll post them in my Ravelry projects page so that you guys can really see the true effect of the sweater. I'm really glad that I mixed up the fiber as much as I did to do a sweater like this. I think if I hadn't have mixed up the fiber and there was even more really super overt striping, I wouldn't wear it. But as it is, the camera picks up the contrast of the light and dark, and so that's why it looks really stripy, but in real life, it's not. It's probably a little bit more accurate to see it from back here, because a lot of this just blends out. In real life, you can't see light and dark like you can on the camera. So I am happy with how it turned out. It was a lot of knitting. That alone, I can see where I sewed in some ends and they're coming undone. That's so weird. I'm really good at sewing in ends. I'm surprised that my ends are coming undone in that little area. Maybe I wasn't quite as careful as I normally am. So yeah, I think the Weekender Light, I'm not sure I would make it again. Does that make sense? I'm not sure that it's a sweater in a shape that for me personally, that I would make again. I know some people have knit it and they wear it and wear it and wear it and wear it. I'm not sure that that's going to be the sweater for me in terms of like wearing it and wearing it and wearing it. I could be totally wrong. Another couple of months could go by. It might be something that I tend to like gravitate toward and be pulled towards. I kind of kind of don't think so. Just because of all this up here and the neck and everything, it's interesting seeing it in photos and then having it on in real life. Even when I was trying it on, when I was doing the sleeves and whatnot, I tried it on quite a few times. I was sick, I wasn't feeling great. And I was like, well, maybe it's just kind of, maybe it's just me. Like, I'm not feeling great, I'm not feeling 100%, but putting it on again, this morning and kind of seeing what it was like, I was like, I don't know. So I will report back on this one because it was a lot of work. So yeah, Christine says very impressionist. Totally. Yeah, that's exactly what it's like. Yeah, it's the neck, Ellen, for me. And the neck looks great on everybody. Like that neck, that kind of boat neck looks great on people. I'm just not sure I'm gonna like this. We'll see. I'll like I said, I'll report back. When we do sweater reflections in the new year and we go through sweaters that I've worn a lot, these are the kind of things that like I want to know from people. Like, do you wear it? Do you find the neck annoying? Does it get in your way? Does it frustrate you? Because I know several people who wear their weekenders like to death. They wear them all the time and they love them. I think they're great sweaters. I've tried them on several times. It just might not be one that I go for all the time. So yeah. Diane says boat necks don't work for me at all. Yeah, some people just, yeah. I felt the same when I made mine, but now I love it. And I do only wear vests underneath. Oh, good to know, Sam. Yeah, okay. I'll report back. I will report back. All right. I have a really big finished item that came off the loom. So let's talk about that next. So I had put on the loom a huge warp. It was 11 or 12 yards, and I wove off 2 of these, and I told you guys about them because I had a threading error. So I cut 2 off, and I fixed the threading error, and then I reslayed. No, I didn't have to reslay. I just had to fix the threading error in the heddles, reslayed that little area, and then lashed back onto the loom to keep on weaving. And 2 Sundays ago, before I got sick, we had a really quiet day. We were just home. There was, soccer was canceled because there was snow. We had a freak snowfall. So all of the turf fields were covered. And so Nora's soccer game got canceled. And I sat and I wove and I wove and I wove and I wove and I wove. And I wove off 9 tea towels. So all I have left is 2, 4, 6, 8. So out of this warp, I got 11 tea towels off of it and a partial. This would have been a full tea towel, and I would have been able to get 12 off of this warp if I didn't have to cut off and fix, which is kind of too bad. But in the end, it ended up working out really well. I gave 2 to 2 of my girlfriends that I grew up with. Their parents still live here. We grew up together. Our parents all know each other, and they were home to celebrate Christmas with their families this past weekend, but they're not going to be home for Christmas proper. And so I gave them each one. And then Nora took one today to school with her for her teacher. And then I have the rest of these. 2 of them are going to my brother and sister-in-law, and 2 of them are going to get mailed off to my brother and sister-in-law in Ontario. And then one of them is going to the kids' tutor, and then that should leave 2 for us and 1 for their math tutor. So they're kind of all spoken for except for 2 that I'll keep for our family. And the 2 that had the threading error that were like the worst of the batch, those are the ones that I've set aside for us that I'm going to keep. You know, once you get going and you start weaving, when you have one weft, so the way that these are made, let me hold them out. These are turned M's and O's. So for those who aren't weavers yet, don't worry about the language. It doesn't matter. But basically M's and O's makes these O shapes, and then it makes these like ribbing areas that look like M's. And so when you do turned M's and O's, you're just turning it on its side. So if I were to put it this way it just has a different look. And the nice thing about turned M's nose is that you can have plain weave on both edges. So you can have it at your hem and on the sides. With traditional M's and O's, you can only pick one. You can only have plain weave, and it's not even real plain weave. It's plain weave-ish at the bottom, at your hems, or on the side. You can't have both. You have to choose. So with turned M's and O's, what I really love about this, and I'll bring it up close to the camera so you can really see, is it gives you this this kind of lattice feel. And I used a variegated 8-2 cotton that I actually had to order from the States and get shipped up from the States, which was kind of too bad because it makes it really expensive. And my original plan was actually to sell some of these to recoup some of that cost. But I needed I almost need to weave off at one time like 15 tea towels if I'm going to do that, and then 5 of them get set aside to sell. So if I'm gonna sell stuff, I need to like put like 5 or 6 aside that are, it's like these ones are being sold. I cannot give them as gifts. They can't be used at the last minute to give to anybody. I have to put them aside and they have to get listed. So, and I need longer warps if I'm going to do that. And if I'm going to do that, I would like to get more into like sectionally warping rather than warping back to front. Because winding a 15-yard warp and then trying to get it on the loom, it's just not a whole lot of fun. It's fine, you can do it, it's no problem. But I think at that point I would rather switch into like sectionally warping, which is a whole other discussion for another day. Anyhow, so it's 8-2 cotton in the variegated yarn, and then 8-2 cotton in gray. And then your weft, so the throwing your shuttle, is only the gray 8-2 cotton. So I needed about 4 cones of the gray 8-2 cotton tubes. And then the other thing in the pattern, so this is a pattern off of Webs. They're called the confetti towels. They recommend that for your hems to keep them from getting wavy because they end up, there's a lot of draw in with the turned M's nose. You're basically making warp and weft floats is basically what you're doing. So on one side you've got the weft floats, and on the other side you have warp floats. And so because of that draw in and because of that change in interlacement wherever you get those floats, there's a lot of draw in. And so what they recommend for your hems is to use a lighter weight yarn. So I used 10-2 cotton for my hems, and the draw in wasn't quite so bad. Like the difference between the hem and the body of the towel wasn't too bad. In the pattern, because they use a set that's even smaller than what I used 20 ends per inch, but in the pattern they actually call for 24 ends per inch, but it was just too tight, and so I opened it up. They actually recommend that for your hems that you use sewing thread, and I was just like, nope, no, not doing that. So yeah, so I've got these left over, and the rest are going to be gifted, and then yeah. Eveline says, Rachel's plan is to turn us all into weavers. We are a very multi-craftual community. There are a lot of people here that do a lot of different things. Anyhow, that is that project. It is done. It took me almost all day to weave all of these off. And then I sat later that week when Nora was sick. I picked her up at school at midday. She called at lunchtime when she first was sick at school, and I picked her up and brought her home, got her all settled. And then because she wanted me to sit right with her and sit near her, I actually set her up on the couch, and then I set all of my sewing stuff up right there so I could be with her. Because when kids throw up, they feel like their whole insides are coming out, and it's really scary for most kids. And all those years of working in Emerge, we used to get kids in that, you know, had obviously been sick for a long time, and the parents were really concerned about dehydration and stuff. And one of the things that we would hear from the kids over and over and over again was just, please make it stop, like all of my insides are coming out. And they don't understand that it's your body getting rid of all the bad stuff and getting rid of the bugs and everything. And that all of the good stuff, all of your insides are staying put. So I'm always very aware, you know, when the kids get stomach flu or get a gastro, because it's really scary for kids. So I just stayed close by and I got all of these hemmed. I never hem the little the little ender. I always just zigzag it and leave it, but I hemmed it as well. That's how much hemming I did. I hemmed 22 towels in one day because I had a whole bunch of towels from last year that never got hemmed, and I hemmed all of those as well. So it was a hemming marathon, but man, did it feel good after it was done. It felt so good. Yeah. Yep, they do seek out their mom. That's right. Diana says the number of times I've been the recipient. Totally. So those are done. I'm glad that they're done. They end up being a really enjoyable project, and I was able to weave them off really quickly. What I didn't enjoy about them was actually after the washing process. They came out because of all the drawing and just the way that the floats work. It was really hard to get them nice and flat and really iron them really nicely. And so what I ended up doing was taking them out of the washing machine, because I had that experience with the first two. So when I took them out of the washing machine, instead of tumble drying them until they were completely dry, I tumble dried them on low for about 10-15 minutes to take the wetness out of them. Although stuff coming out of my washing machine is already quite dry. But I only threw them in the dryer for about 10 minutes, and then I took each of them and I hung them on my drying rack, and I let them completely dry hanging like this, just over the rack. And that actually really helped with not letting them be quite so wrinkly. So then when I went to iron, it was much easier to get them ironed out nicely again. So yeah. There's no other way to put it. You're right, Lisa. Yeah, throwing up and doing all that, it's just awful. Okay, let's do our year-end community participation, and I don't think I have the PowerPoint up and ready to go, so give me a second. If things aren't totally ready when we go to the when the jingle finishes, bear with me, it is coming. Dion, that's a really good point. You were asking about ironing with starch. I've not ever done that, but that's actually not a bad idea. My mom does once in a while, so I should talk to her and ask her about that. That's a great idea. All right, all of this stuff is things that you guys have been working on over the last couple of weeks. So let's start with our Corespinalong, because that's almost wrapping up in the next couple of weeks. And this is all of the yarns that Rebecca's been making and sharing on the Wool Circle over the last month. So huge round of applause to Rebecca. Amazing. She has done so much spinning. She's done a lot of core-based yarns. She's pushed the box on every single thing. And they were all Christmas themed, which is really fun. She's done core spun, super coils, core-based spiral ply, tons of stuff. Super fun. And she's already turned it into a bunch of Christmas ornaments. So really amazing. So anybody who's on the fence about the Wool Circle, there is a 7-day free trial to try it. And we're streaming that for the last one of the year next Tuesday at 10 a.m. 10 a.m. Pacific on Boxing Day in Canada. This is from Elizabeth. She actually posted finished photos of this yarn on Instagram, and it was beautiful. But it was her first foray into core spinning, and she's really enjoying it. She used a coordinating mohair for the core, and she's curious about how to get different effects, super coils, different cores, etc. It's a perfect way to show off beautiful textures in bats. It absolutely is. And trying all those different effects, Elizabeth, that's all covered on the Wool Circle. So yeah, really, really fun. This was from Crystal. I love this yarn. It is so cool. So she's been continuing her adventures in core spinning, and with this spin, she decided to play around with an unconventional core. It was a novelty pom-pom yarn. So those are those blue bits that you see in there. Using a kid mohair cloud with a touch of Angelina, she airily drafted her fiber to create an almost halo effect as she core spun it. And then in doing so, she allowed the core to peek through in those blue pom-poms. She thinks it would be a fun technique to use with a core in a contrasting color. Love this. So, so fun. Really neat idea. Yes, I agree, Rebecca. And then this is another one that Crystal did, and this is just beautiful. She did such a nice job. Continuing her explorations, this is a go-round with one of her favorites, which is beehives. Not only is it a fun yarn to spin, it's fun to look at. It's taken me a while to perfect my beehives. The most helpful advice I can offer is to make big, beautiful beehives is to put a whole lot of twist into your beehive fiber. More than you think you'll need. This is also a yarn you'll want to steam finish to protect the shape of your beehives. Sorry about that, you guys. My throat is getting really dry and I don't know why. I think it's dry in our house right now. Mike's got a dehumidifier going in our crawl space, and so I've actually found that our house this winter has felt a lot drier than it normally does, and it's just from having that running in the crawl space. It just pulls that moisture out of the house. I love how this one turned out, and it reminds me of clouds against a blue background. Beautiful, Crystal. Thank you so much for sharing that. This is from Suzanne. This was she made a couple of yarns, and I grabbed this one just because I loved the colors more than anything. This one was smoother, and she liked it. She felt it was more pleasing to her eye. And she used a smoother core. It was a fingering weight commercial Shetland, and she just felt like she had better control because she'd been practicing. The other one that she did was more lofty, more airy. It was a little bit more woolen looking, and then this one was the twin, and it was smoother. I loved seeing the contrast. Beautiful spinning, you guys. This is some Year of Color stuff that I never shared, and these were color wheels that you guys shared throughout the year that kind of got buried in the mix of everything else. So these are some throwbacks that I wanted to share with you guys. So this was from Amara. This was from way back when we were doing all of our spinning and making and whatnot. She took all of her color theory knowledge based on watercolor RYB color wheels, and so going digital was very enlightening, and she really wanted the individual blends, but the pics, it didn't show it quite so well, but she was quite surprised at how successful it turned out. And so this was two different pics to show the rather dramatic color temperature difference between her two cameras. So the middle color is the wheel, in the wheel is all three mixed together for an attempt at the chromatic gray. My mouse is not working here, so let me see if I can just play this again. So that's the chromatic gray in the middle. And then that's her other chromatic gray, and that's the same color wheel but a different camera. And those were the original colors that she had. So yeah, very cool. And that was from quite a long time ago, so thank you, Amara. This was from Kathy, also from a while ago. Still playing with color here. I have now spun up the muddy desaturated row legs, and since I love them so much, I carried on with a carded toned down tertiaries, and I love these even more. And these were all of her tertiaries here in the photo. Beautiful. We did so much this year, so much, you guys. And some of this stuff just kind of got lost in the podcast. It just didn't get shared because there was just so much of it. I love that chromatic gray in the middle. Isn't that beautiful? Her mud. It's not really mud. It's beautiful. And then this one was from Brittany of Crux Fibers up in Whitehorse, Yukon. And these were all of her primaries, and she carded them all up to make different tints and shades. With natural fibers, and those are her three primaries, her magenta, her cyan, and her yellow. And then this is what she got from her triads with black, gray, and white added. Beautiful, hey? And then this was from Deb. Today's spindle spin was to finally spin the color wheel samples. These were spun on a suspended Ashford workhorse spindle. Don't mind the raggedy ends. My scissors have gone AWOL. Beautiful. Well done, Deb. And this was from Dominique. She did so much spinning for the Year of Color. It was really, truly incredible. So this was her desaturated color wheel. made from yellow, magenta, and blue, and she blended 10% of the complementary with each color, and that's how she got this sort of desaturated color with each. And isn't it interesting that orange that she got? It's not really an orange. It's really interesting. She got a beautiful green, and but she didn't really get purple or orange, not really. It's so interesting what happens with these color wheels. So cool. Okay, where's my mouse gone? All right, and then this is some stuff that's been popping up throughout the community over the last week or so. I knew that the show was going to be really, really super long today, so I kept this part a little bit shorter. But this is from Sam. So I wasn't having an Advent spin or knit this year, but I wanted a project, so I decided to make this by Carla Courtney. Meet Larry the Lobster and the Jumpers, hand spun, of course. He's so cute. I so appreciate knitted and crocheted toys. I just don't make them, but I just think they're fantastic. This was from Nicole, who's here today. Actually, she's spinning away. She said she was going to be a bit quiet today because she's been working on her stuff. She finished a bobbin for her Advent spinning. So as I was changing over anyway, I took the opportunity to spin the bells. Massive faff. So glad it was only a small amount, but probably the silliest thing I've ever spun. But how much fun. So fun. This is great. Thanks for sharing, Nicole. This is from Pauline. So I showed you guys last show the bobbin that she was working on. This is the finished yarn. Isn't that shockingly beautiful? She managed to apply the singles, tried for a fractal, forgot to take proper notes. Don't worry about it, Pauline. You're just learning. And this is how it turned out. It is beautiful. Really well done. It almost actually looks more like a gradient from that sort of corally orange up to the blue. You could do a really, really gorgeous shawl with that yarn. Start at one end and knit all the way through the 3 skeins. Just beautiful, because that one in the middle is a good bridge between the 2 of them. Really well done. Beautiful. This is from Eve. I had to share this because the photo, she just nailed it. I love that photo. I don't know why. She nailed it. The spotlight on the Lazy Kate, the weathered floor. I just love it. Time to ply. The singles range from 45 to 60 wraps per inch. So how long do you think this will take me? I think Eve is still plying. And this is from Dion. This yarn is amazing. So you guys know how I feel about red and green together. I don't love them. We talk about why in the year of color, why red and green are a little bit of a tricky complementary pair. Anyhow, she's taken them here and she's blended them and added other fibers. And she ended up adding a magenta to the 2 initial colors. The wool is Shetland and a mix of Finnish, Icelandic, Norwegian, and Scandinavian mountain, all from World of Wool in the UK. I plan to use these for fingerless mitts or maybe socks. I just love that finished yarn. It is beautiful, Dion. You have nailed it. Yeah. Oh, Pauline says, thanks so much. It was the first go at a 3-ply. So that yarn that I had said about she was going for a fractal, that turned out beautifully. This is from Liz of Kingdom Fleece and Fiber Works. She's been pin drafting some fiber that they've been dyeing, and this is the yarn that comes from that fiber. She's had this skein of hand spun for at least 17 years, and she really wanted to copy it because even though it's Christmas colors, the way it's spun doesn't scream Christmas to me, and it keeps growing on me. But I don't know what to do with this one skein. So she's been trying to make something similar, and she thinks she finally has it in their new blend. Beautiful. Love those colors. They do scream Christmas in the pin drafted roving for sure, but the skein is gorgeous after spinning. Really pretty. And this is from Lisa, still working on the Christmas bat with my goddess spindle. Beautiful. I have to pull out my goddess spindles this afternoon because they have my Christmas gnomes on them. Both of my goddess spindles are Christmas spindles. I'll take photos and I'll put it in the Slack channel later. And I have to pull them out because I have to use them at this time of year. They're just perfect. So well done, Lisa. Thank you so much, you guys, for sharing all you do, making what you do, making the community a richer place for your participation and for being here. I really appreciate it. Today was a very long show. It was almost 2 hours. So I am going to say goodbye in just a moment, but I wanted to take a moment because it's the last stream to say thank you. I really appreciate you guys being here, for allowing me to continue to do the work that I do, that I love to do year after year. We've been doing this since, we've been doing Patreon and the live streams and stuff since 2016, which is getting to be quite a while now. And I can do it because you guys are here and because you're interested in the conversation and you want to talk and you want to dive deeper and learn and share with one another and be inspired by one another. And I couldn't do it without you guys. So thank you so much. Have an amazing, happy, healthy holiday season, whatever that looks like for you, even if it's just sitting on the couch and reading a book. And for those who are around next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific, we've got the Wool Circle. It's the last stream of the year. There is a 7-day free trial for those who are interested in trying out the Wool Circle before Rebecca kicks off the new year with Sarah Anderson's book of yarn designs. And Happy New Year. I will see you guys on January 2nd for the next live stream. And until then, be well. And I hope you have lots and lots of time to do some making in the next couple of weeks before the year is over. I'll see you guys next time. Bye, everyone.